Good morning and welcome to our Love Poured Out Women's Retreat. We're so glad you're here. My name is Allison Van Egmond. I'm the Women's Ministry Coordinator here at New Life, and on behalf of the retreat team, we would just like to welcome you here for our Women's Retreat today. Our goal today is to help you feel loved and cared for, but also to hopefully inspire you to love and care for people in your community. As the vision team and I were discussing what the topic of this retreat should be, we were thinking about how we are just coming out of 2 years of social distancing, face masks, quarantine rules, and isolation at times. We've struggled with disunity in our country over many political divides, and that has affected the church as well. So as we thought about all of this, we realized it would be a great time to get a renewed sense of God's purpose in our lives, a reminder that God has poured his love out for us, and we are to pour our love out to those around us. We know that even the title may sound a little daunting and burdensome to some of you. Maybe you're thinking, I've already poured myself out so much. Maybe you're feeling depleted this morning. If that is the case for you, it is our hope and prayer that you would leave here today feeling refreshed and renewed as you remember just how much God loves you and cares for you. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker to you. Our speaker's name is Kristin Barrie. She was raised just a few miles from here in Poway, where she was a Poway High School cheerleader for her football-playing future husband, Jason. She graduated from Fairfield University in Connecticut and worked in hotel management for her early years. Jason and Kristin have been married nearly 28 years and recently moved here after 18 years in pastoral ministry in Billings, Montana. She loves ministering together with her husband and helped teach in the areas of adult Sunday school and women's ministry and discipleship. They have 3 grown kids and a son-in-law, Emily and her husband Adam, who are moving here this summer from St. Louis, son Adam, who is in the Air Force, and daughter Kendall, who is a junior at Covenant College in Georgia. Kristin says her greatest joy has been being a career homemaker. She loves to learn and create and enjoys reading, cooking, hiking, and anything crafty. And in fact, she made this beautiful display behind us. She's very talented. And something that gives her a joy is scoring a designer deal while thrift shopping. All right, without further ado, Kristin, come on up.
Thank you. Let's make sure I have this. Okay. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, worship team. What a great way to get us started. It feels so good to be together. Honored to be here today. I love a women's retreat. And I'm just glad we have this opportunity to be together. I'm thankful for all the daddies and babysitters and everyone who made this possible, that you could be here today. Yes, I did grow up in this area. We've been gone for 30 plus years, but grew up in Poway. In fact, I'm a California native. I was born while my parents were at UCLA for my dad's specialty training, and then we moved down to Poway when I was in 2nd grade. Went to Painted Rock Elementary and Twin Peaks and Poway High. And it's really special to now feel a part of New Life. In a lot of ways, we've always felt a connection to New Life. We had our seminary years here, and we worshiped at North City Pres in Poway at the time. But our Billings Church partnered with you all for a few of the Tijuana mission trips that you did. And so we got to know some of your families that way just by being a part of those mission trips, which were a delight to my family. also makes my kids feel connected here too, which is special. I also remember meeting Mary Weller when she hosted a couple of our Billings girls at her house while we were here for the trip. And we got reacquainted because Mary and I are in the same women's Bible study discussion group. And as we got to know each other again this fall, she said that she just said that she just didn't realize that we just moved here. She felt like we belonged here and thought we just were at the other service. And I was like, no, we lived in Montana, but okay, yeah, that's great. I thank you. It made me feel so welcome. So I've appreciated the warm reception that we've received here from so many of you, and so in many ways it feels very natural to be together with you today. It's strange to start over at our age as empty nesters, and so you've made that as smooth as possible. Well, the challenge of being your speaker today has been a really good challenge for me. I think if I were to speak on something I was a real natural at, it would be maybe we'd be talking in a book club discussion or something really meaty that we've read together, or we could talk about travel because I love to travel, or I'd be up here with my glue gun and some Mod Podge, and we'd be making something from Pinterest together. But so I'm humbled by this opportunity to explore this theme of love poured out with you. I've told you about some of the things that I am comfortable with, but today I'm talking about something I historically have not been very comfortable with, and that is something that doesn't come necessarily easily. We're talking about neighboring today, and we're talking about not necessarily, we all are able to neighbor one another in our life with the people around us, and that comes somewhat easily to us, right? The people we love and serve, family, whoever else is in our immediate circle. But we're talking about people outside our bubble mostly today. So neighboring is not generally a verb that we use. We think of neighboring as a noun, my neighbor. But this is a term we're using today to talk about the one anothering that the Bible talks about. In fact, 59 times in the New Testament is the phrase one another, and we hear it in ways of like love one another, serve one another, bear one another's burdens. We're familiar with some of that verbiage. But again, we tend to focus on the ways that we do that within our own group, our own little bubble. It's our family, maybe it's our church family. It's our village is a word we like to use now, our people. But today we're going to go a little bit beyond that bubble, and we're going to look at one anothering with a bit of a twist, with maybe an exclamation point. And what I'm getting at is focus on the otherness of one anothering, meaning reaching people that we historically don't gravitate to, or maybe are even a little uncomfortable around. It's easy to love the lovable. It's easy to serve and love people that we deem that are likable people that are grateful, people that think like us, people that we deem are deserving. But what about the people who are not? Those who are very other than we are. Do I have to serve them? And if so, where do I get the motivation? Well, while my husband Jason was a pastor, we were so focused on our joint ministry together, our primary calling, which was our church family, that I found that I just didn't lift my eyes up very much to see beyond us, the people at our kids' school, the others that we rubbed shoulders with from time to time. And so we were in our Christian bubble, and it was okay, right? These are our church people. This is our primary calling. But I didn't really stop to think about the people beyond us very much. And so this was a great challenge to me to be considering these things. Who is my neighbor? Who am I truly called to serve? These are the things we're going to talk about today. And some of you are familiar with pastor and author John Piper. He speaks of he describes it as a vertical and a horizontal in all of our relationships. That as Christians, we have the vertical, right? We have God's love for us coming from him, straight down, the vertical. God's immense love for us, his love, his acceptance, and our redemption, the vertical. And then he describes the horizontal, how we express that love to those around us. So he encourages us to take the vertical and bend it toward the people around us in the horizontal. So he speaks of experiencing the love and acceptance of God and then bending that toward others. And I hope that what I've learned through this process will influence the way that you think about loving your neighbors. When we stop to think about God's magnitude, the magnitude of God's love for us. So I'm going to read a story that's quite familiar, both inside the church and out. And if you didn't grow up hearing stories of the Bible, you might have even heard of this one just because it's made its way into our society. We're talking about the Good Samaritan story. And we use the verbiage Good Samaritan even just to talk about someone who's done a good deed. It's even made its way into our legal system where there are benefits or laws to protect a do-gooder and the Good Samaritan. So it's the Good Samaritan story. It's in Luke 10. It's also in your handouts on page 2. And it's the parable Jesus tells of a stranger who went out of his way to help someone who everyone else ignored. And it's that, and it's so much more. So let me read that for us now. It's Luke 10, verses 25 and following. And behold, a lawyer stood up to put him, Jesus, to the test, saying, "Teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life?" He said to him, "What is written in the law? How do you read it?" And the lawyer answered, "You shall love you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." And he said to him, "You have answered correctly. Do this and you will live." But he, the lawyer, desiring to justify himself, said to Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus replied, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among robbers, who stripped him and beat him and departed, leaving him half dead. Now by chance a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he journeyed, came to where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion. He went to him and bound up his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he set him on his own animal and brought him to an inn and took care of him. And the next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper, saying, 'Take care of him, and whatever more you spend, I will repay you when I come back.' Which of these 3 do you think proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell among the robbers?" And he said, "The one who showed him mercy." And Jesus said to him, "You go and do likewise." All right, so let's get some context as we consider this story. This is the road to Jericho. This is the road between Jerusalem and Jericho, and it's historically a dangerous road. It was risky to travel this road. It was likely that you were going to get robbed at best. And for the man half dead on the side of the road, that was even more likely. So sure enough, this man gets attacked, he gets robbed, and he gets left for dead on the road. Thankfully, though, right, here comes some help. Some godly tabernacle staff comes by, and surely they're going to be helpful, right? They're called to this, a priest, a Levite. But no, both men who are expected to help pass him by. they actually go out of their way to cross the road and ignore him and perhaps try to alleviate their consciences too. Then the Samaritan travels down the path, sees the man on the side of the road, and his response is compassion. Now, what's truly remarkable about that is we want to say, well, it's neat that he had such a kind heart. But really what we need to see here is how unlikely a pairing this is that the Samaritan would be the one that stopped to help this man. Because culturally, the Jews and the Samaritans were enemies. They had differing opinions about how worship should be done, and amongst other things. And so there was tension between their people groups. In fact, Jews used to, at great inconvenience, travel around Samaria rather than travel through Samaria, just to avoid the people group that they couldn't stand. So it's really something when we know that the Samaritan is the one who has compassion. He has compassion on his enemy. So that's remarkable. And it's one thing if the man on the road was a fellow Samaritan, right? Then maybe you would expect that. So how does one muster that kind of compassion for an enemy, someone so other than you? Well, it's got to be a work of God. That's God in action in the heart of the Samaritan, that cast out from society, kept at arm's length Samaritan, that overcomes evil with good. That this man not only bends down to stop the bleeding for his enemy, but he goes the extra mile to see to his long-term care at an inn and covers the cost. And Jesus reminds him that he is the neighbor. So here's a natural stopping point to ask you the question, what about you? Do you see yourself in the story as maybe the one who passed him by or the one who had compassion? Are you someone that's so busy and you've got your full agenda and you, like the priest and Levite, you have things to do and people to see. You have people that depend on you. You have stuff to do. It doesn't get done without you. For those David Allen fans out there, you are getting things done. Or maybe you identify with the Good Samaritan. Maybe you have you're very tender-hearted by nature, and you have a heart for mercy, and you hate to see people suffering when there's something you could do. So which of those is you? Well, it's a trick question, because neither in this parable, you and I are the one half dead on the road. So I don't know if you can hear the parallels already. The story may sound familiar to you. It's you and me. We were left half dead on the side of the road, but for Jesus. Jesus is the one who, when we were his enemy, had compassion on us. Our rescuer had compassion for our brokenness, and at great sacrifice to himself, made a way for us to be healed and restored. I'm going to let that sink in for a minute. Have you ever thought about the Good Samaritan story as your own personal story of redemption? Not just one that is do the nice thing. Have you thought of it as your own personal story of redemption, that you were brought back to life by someone whose care we did not deserve? That sin separated us from God and made us deserving of eternal death, but Christ made a way for our redemption, that instead we would enjoy everlasting life with him. In Luke 10, the Samaritan considers his enemy his neighbor, and he goes to great lengths, at great cost to himself, to see to the man's care. This kind of service, this kind of love comes with sacrifice. In our redemption story, Jesus Christ literally sacrificed himself for us. Let me read from the Old Testament words of Isaiah 53. So these are prophetic words of the Jesus that would be coming. In verse 5, it says, but he was wounded for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace, and with his stripes, meaning his wounds and his scars, we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him, meaning Jesus, the iniquity of us all. That, my sisters, is love. So the bad news is that we were dead and apart from God, but the good news is that Jesus was the perfect Samaritan who had compassion, who showed mercy. How does it feel to hear that you were half dead, but for God who found you? I think some of us need that reminder. Some of us know all too well that we're that helpless creature, and we need reminding of God's love for us. I need that gentle reminder that I was helpless and saved by grace. I grew up, I was just a typical firstborn, right, Mom? I grew up a very good girl, and I loved school, and I got good grades, and I had sweet friends, and I was reminded as we were going through some yearbooks recently that of all things I was voted most likely to succeed, which kind of makes me laugh because I'm sure the idea was, this is some kind of boardroom CEO thing, and, I probably not a life of homemaking and children and ministry. That's not what they intended, but that's what I had in mind. And so anyway, that was me. And I didn't have a very dramatic testimony, which I know every soul saved is a dramatic testimony. But my behaviors in my life didn't change that much when Christ changed me. And I sometimes find it, if I'm honest, I sometimes find it hard I want to forget that all have sinned, including me, and fall short of the glory of God. And that because I try, and because I'm a hard worker, that I don't have to think of myself in the category of totally depraved, like the Bible says we are. And because I also tend towards self-sufficiency, if I'm not careful, I can slip right into the good thing Jesus has me on his team, right? I'm making things right, and I'm helping him, and I'm his right hand, and isn't he blessed? That's scary. That is super scary. So my sin does remind me, though, that like the Kids' Shorter Catechism, I'm corrupt in every part of my being. And I can't hear that without remembering teaching that to our kids. And the question in the Shorter Catechism is, how sinful are you? And I can just hear their sweet little voices saying, I am corrupt in every part of my being. So anyway, I will gloss over that. I will minimize that. So I need to be reminded that I was half dead on the side of the road. But maybe you're the flip side of that. Maybe you are someone who needs to be reminded of God's love for you. That the dirt from your past, or a prevailing sin in your life, or maybe even something you've never told a human soul, haunts you and keeps you thinking that you're a fake. That God could never forgive you or love you. Why should he? To you I say, with the blood of Jesus, your sin has been washed away, and he sees you, like the words of the book of Isaiah, whiter than snow. And whiter than snow means, it's a foreign concept to Southern Californians perhaps, but it means something to me now after 18 winters in Montana. It's hard to describe the beauty and serenity of a fresh blanket of snow. I loved a morning when you'd wake up and you didn't realize it was supposed to snow last night, and gone are the mucky, we lived by a big pasture and field, and the grass that was beige and worn down, it's all covered in white, and there's a stillness in the air, and there's a glow, a bluish purple glow, and it's pristine. It is beautiful. And that's how Jesus sees us, his daughters, that beautiful way. He doesn't just tolerate us, he cares for us. He cherishes us. We're covered by his grace. By his wounds, we are all healed. The perfect Samaritan had compassion on us. So, love of a holy God to his creation, all of us. Love that sacrificed his only son for us. Love that saved us from ourselves, that forgave us and forgives us still. Love that had compassion. That is love poured out. When we use the term poured out, what do we mean? We mean extravagant. We mean lavish. We mean abundant. We mean overflowing. That's Christ's love for you. So when Jesus tells the lawyer in the Luke 10 story, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, and your neighbor as yourself, he's reminding us that loving God and loving our neighbor go together. He's telling us you can love your neighbor, even if they're very other than you, because of the Lord's love for you. So we're going to take some time now to consider God's love for us. And then this afternoon, we're going to be exploring just exactly who our neighbor is and how we are to love them. Okay? Thank you.